The spirit did not speak. All Scrooge could see of it in the gloom was one outstretched hand, pointing from its black garments. Scrooge was filled with fear. "Are you the spirit of the future?" he asked, trembling. "Are you going to show me things that are going to happen in years to come?" The spirit seemed to bend its head. "Will you not speak to me?" begged Scrooge. The spirit merely pointed straight ahead. They were in the city. Businessmen were standing in groups, chinking their coins in their pockets. Scrooge and the spirit stopped near enough to hear what some of them were saying. "I don't know much about it," said one fat merchant. "I only know he's dead." "Who's he left all his money to?" asked another, taking snuff out of a large snuff box. "I don't know," said a red-faced banker with a watch on his nose. "He hasn't left it to me." They all laughed. "I wonder who will go to his funeral," said the fat man. He hadn't any friends. Scrooge wondered who they were talking about. He looked about for himself, but he was not in his usual place of business. Next, the spirit took Scrooge to a dreadful slum in the poorest part of London. Under a low roof there stood a shabby old second-hand shop full of rubbish. A rag and bone man crouched by an evil-smelling stove, waiting for customers. Two men and a woman came and out of the murky night carrying bundles. They had some bedding, clothes, and old curtains to sell. "What do you get these then?" croaked the rag and bone merchant, picking them over. "The old chap we took them from won't want them again," shouted the woman. "If he hadn't been such a wicked old screw, we might have had someone to look after him when he was dying," said one of them, throwing down a pair of cufflinks. "It serves him right." Scrooge watched as a few coins changed hands. "Spirit," he said, "doesn't anyone feel anything about this man's death?" The ghost spread its dark robe out like a wing and then drew it back to show a room where a mother sat with her young children. The husband came in, looking ill and worried, and yet there was a look of joy in his face too. "We have more time to pay our debts," he said. "Has the old man relented then?" asked his wife eagerly. "No," said her husband, "he is dead." His wife's face brightened. The only feeling anyone had for the old man's death was relief. Scrooge begged the spirit to show him some kinder feelings connected with her death. In reply, the spirit took him to Bob Cratchit's house. The little Cratchits were quiet. Their mother was sewing. "Your father is late tonight," she said. "I think we walk he walked slower in the evening than he did with Tiny Tim on his shoulder," said Peter. "Your father loved Tiny Tim, and he was so light to carry," said their mother. Just then Bob came in, and his family hurried to get his tea. He had been to the cemetery. "It's a lovely place," said Bob. "I promised Tiny Tim we'd go every Sunday. We must never forget Tiny Tim, and we must never quarrel with one another, for he was so patient and good." They all hugged one another and promised. Scrooge said anxiously to the spirit, "Show me myself as I shall be in years to come." The spirit took him to his office, but another man sat at his desk. Scrooge began to feel a sense of dread. Still pointing, the tall black figure took Scrooge to an iron gate that led to a neglected churchyard, where the grass and the nettles had grown high. The spirit stood among the graves, and with its long finger pointed to one. "Before I look at that grave," said Scrooge, "tell me, spirit, are these things that will happen, or are they things that may happen?" The spirit just continued to point at the grave without speaking. Scrooge crept towards it and trembling read, "Ebenezer Scrooge." "No, no," cried Scrooge, clutching the spirit's robe. "I am not that man. I will not be that man. Isn't there any hope for me? Can I change what you have shown me?" The spirit hand trembled. "I promise to keep Christmas in my heart all the year round. I promise to remember the lessons the spirit has taught me. Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas future. Please tell me I can change the writing on this stone." I see by the spirit. He saw an alteration in his hood and dress. It shrank, collapsed, and changed into a bedpost.